The streets were cold and quiet. Snow had fallen earlier in the day, and the chill lingered into the late hours of the night. On Sveavägen Street, near the Grand Cinema in central Stockholm, a man and his wife were walking home after watching a movie. They weren't accompanied by bodyguards, and they didn't call for a driver, just a couple heading home like any other. At 11:21 p.m, a shot rang out. Olof Palme, the Prime Minister of Sweden, collapsed onto the pavement. A second shot struck his wife, Lisbeth, grazing her back. Witnesses turned in horror as a man dressed in dark clothing fled up the steps of a nearby alley and vanished into the Stockholm night. The Prime Minister of Sweden was dead. Olof Palme wasn't an ordinary leader. Born into privilege, educated at Kenyon College in the United States and Stockholm University, Palme had a sharp mind, eloquent speech, and radical views that divided Sweden and fascinated the world. He rose through the ranks of the Swedish Social Democratic Party, becoming Prime Minister in 1969 and again in 1982. He was a staunch critic of both American imperialism and Soviet authoritarianism. He condemned the Vietnam War, apartheid in South Africa, and dictatorship in Chile. He met with Fidel Castro. He criticized Moscow while supporting Eastern European dissidents. Internationally, he was admired. Domestically, he was loved and hated in equal measure. Palme didn't believe in security. He often walked the streets unguarded, refusing to live in a bubble. That philosophy made him approachable and vulnerable. On the evening of February 28, 1986, Olof and Lisbeth Palme decided to see the Swedish film The Brothers Mozart at the Grand Cinema. They did not inform the police or use security detail. After the film ended around 11:15 p.m, the couple walked south along Sveavägen Street. At 11:21 p.m, just as they reached the intersection with Tunnelgatan, a man approached from behind and fired 2 shots. The first hit Olof Palme in the back at close range, severing his spinal cord and puncturing his lungs. He died almost instantly. The second bullet grazed Lisbeth's back. Panic erupted. Passers-by rushed to help. An ambulance arrived within minutes. Olof Palme was pronounced dead at 12:06 a.m. The killer had disappeared without a trace. The Swedish police were unprepared. Sweden hadn't experienced a political assassination since the 18th century. Initial mistakes plagued the investigation. The crime scene wasn't sealed. Witnesses weren't interviewed immediately. Surveillance footage was non-existent. A massive manhunt began. Sketches of the suspect were posted across Sweden. Tips flooded in. Over the years, the investigation would grow to become one of the largest in global history, involving hundreds of thousands of pages of documents, more than 130 suspects, and countless conspiracy theories. In 1988, a man named Christer Pettersson, a small-time criminal with a drug problem, was arrested. He had a violent past and a resemblance to witness descriptions. Most damning of all, Lisbeth Palme identified him in a police lineup. He was tried, convicted, and sentenced. Then, on appeal, he was acquitted. The court ruled the evidence was too weak. No murder weapon had been found. There was no motive. Lisbeth's testimony was called into question. Pettersson walked free and remained a polarizing figure until his death in 2004. Theories and shadows. As the years passed, the vacuum of justice filled with speculation. The PKK. Theory. Some believed the Kurdish militant group had orchestrated the murder in retaliation for Sweden's crackdown on its operations. The South African theory. Others pointed to apartheid South Africa, which Palme fiercely opposed. Could South African intelligence have been involved? The CIA or KGB? Given Palme's stance against both superpowers, theories circulated that either the CIA or the Soviet KGB orchestrated the killing. Right-wing extremists, domestic opponents of Palme's policies, were suspected. Could he have been targeted by local political enemies? In 2020, over 3 decades after the murder, Swedish prosecutors named a new suspect, Stig Engström, a graphic designer known as the Skandia Man, who worked near the crime scene. Engström had inserted himself into the investigation early on, giving conflicting stories and appearing frequently in the media. Decades later, investigators came to believe he had both the means and the opportunity, but by then, Engström was dead. In June 2020, prosecutors declared the case officially closed. No one would be tried. The murder of Olof Palme shattered Sweden's sense of safety and trust. It left a wound that never fully healed. For many Swedes, the question still lingers. Who really killed their Prime Minister? Olof Palme was laid to rest in Adolf Fredriks Church Cemetery, just a few blocks from where he fell. No guards protect the grave, only flowers, left by strangers, admirers, and those still searching for answers. It's a simple resting place for a man who believed in simplicity, a leader who refused bodyguards, who chose to walk among the people, even in a world that grew darker around him. His grave remains open to all, just like the ideals he stood for: freedom, justice, and peace. And though the case may never be fully closed, the legacy of Olof Palme continues to echo through the quiet streets of Stockholm. A reminder that even in the deepest shadow, the light of conviction endures.